Maybe you've seen the news, maybe you haven't, but Sigma has a brand new L-mount camera called the Sigma BF. But before we get started, like this video, hit the subscribe button, and consider joining the channel. Channel members get exclusive access to Filmmaker Alchemy, behind-the-scenes lessons and insights on the business of video production. Learn how to turn your content into gold. Yes, the BF is the newest camera to be added to Sigma's lineup. They have the FP as well as a few other older cameras that are still available. We're going to take a look at those in a moment, but I wanted to talk about the Sigma BF because this is obviously the biggest news, brand new camera for the L mount. Let's talk about it. I want to cover a few things. I want to talk about kind of my first impressions, maybe my honest critical feedback, a little bit of criticism, a little bit of the negativity first, but then we're going to talk about the positive aspects of this camera and what it could mean. And then we're going to go really dive down deep into the Sigma BF because it is listed over on the Sigma website. You can check it out for yourself, but we're going to go through that here. So we're going to talk about all of that in this video. Let me first start off with, I don't really get who this camera is for other than a very small niche user base. Maybe I'll be proven wrong in the long term, but at first glance, this is an aesthetic camera. It just looks cool. It has a nice build, nice body style, but at first glance, it looks more or less in terms of specs on paper like a Lumix S9. And just to get right to the punchline, this BF camera is $2,000, and I think you can scoop up an S9 for $1,000. So if you're talking about just specs, performance, what you actually get from the device, you can save half the price by just getting a Lumix S9. Now, I'm sure we're going to get to the positives. So hear me out, because I'm sure there are a lot of people who say like, you're wrong, like that's not true. And maybe I'll be proven wrong. But for the specs at first glance, it looks a lot like the Lumix S9, albeit with a nice, fresh coat of paint. The camera looks cool, but my other criticism comes down to this concept of simplicity. Now, you know that I am a huge fan of efficiency and maximizing output, and a lot of times simple is better, less is more. But I think this is a case where a camera still needs to be usable. And when I'm looking at these buttons, when I'm looking at this layout, I'm kind of wondering, is this actually going to be as, efficient given that simplicity? And I think there's probably a happy medium somewhere in between. This looks like a little bit too bare bones to me, to my eye, in terms of how I actually use it. Of course, I won't know until I get my hands on one. But for first impressions, first glance, which is what we're talking about here, I am a little skeptical of this less is more when it's this bare bones, when there's this few of buttons. Maybe I'll be proven wrong, because let's get to the positives of this camera. Aesthetically, it is very nice to look at. It's kind of got a cool look to it. But beyond that, what I'm actually more impressed by and what I actually am most optimistic for is whatever they're doing with this menu system. A lot of times these camera menus are a pain to go through. I kind of equate them to like a TV or using like a TV remote and like a smart TV or whatever. You're just digging through the menus. You don't know what's called what. It's really confusing. It's really clunky. It's not simple. It's not easy to use. Something like the Blackmagic design cameras, I've always found to have really nice menu systems. Maybe you're a fan of the touchscreen, maybe you're not, but just in general, like the bigger blockier buttons, less of like less list menus. I want less of that and more of what Sigma is offering here, which seems to be a refreshed menu interface. So maybe the less buttons ends up working out, given if they've really, paid attention and put some time and effort into their user interface, their user experience. Maybe I will be proven wrong and this menu will be nice to use and quick to use. Because as a photographer, as a cinematographer, however you want to use this camera, because it can do both photo and video, you can do both. Although I would say arguably it looks much more like a photography camera than a video camera, but you could use it for both either way. I would say that I'm looking forward to more advances in terms of user interface, user experience, because that's what I think a lot of us want. We're sick of digging through menus, sick of a clunky, awkward slowness. And I'm going to see, is this actually speed things up and make it more efficient, or does it slow it down because we don't have enough buttons? And I don't really know. I think the BF is kind of an interesting name. Sigma has this strange, the FP, the FPL. Now they've got the BF. Obviously, it is full frame, and it's kind of that compact, tiny camera. I think for design-wise, it does probably win a few awards just in terms of being the unibody aluminum, as they say, aluminum, as we might say otherwise. And I think it just has a nice aesthetic, but ultimately the photos it's going to deliver, the videos it's going to deliver can be had elsewhere for cheaper. So let's actually dive in and check out those specs over on the Sigma site, because I think that's probably going to be the most helpful. If you go over to Sigma Photo, the first they're leading, the beauty of a simple thing. With the Sigma BF, we present an uncompromising new vision for the digital camera, stripped to the essence, but packed with power. So stripped to the essence, is that actually going to be a good thing? If you're a photographer and you're shooting, maybe you wouldn't shoot a wedding with this type of camera, but you're traveling, maybe you're with your family, maybe you're doing a little, kind of on the street photography, whatever it happens to be. Is this actually going to speed you up and give you that, instantaneous feedback, that instant response where you want to change your ISO and you can do it quickly. You want to change your white balance, you can do it quickly. You want to change your aperture, your shutter, all that needs to be quick, almost muscle memory, I think is kind of how I like to look at it. You become one with the camera where you don't really have to think about how you change something. Your hands just do it because you've learned, you got that built-in muscle memory. There's certain cameras where I've never gotten the muscle memory. Even I use it for weeks, months, years, and it still is kind of hunting for buttons or trying to remember where's that in the menu, because there is a certain level where if it's just not intuitive enough, if it's not easily accessible, if you have to dig through the menus or the button's not where it needs to be, you just never pick up that muscle memory. Where there's other cameras, it fits like a glove almost, so to speak. So let's continue with the BF, which I don't know what that stands for. I wonder if we'll get to it. It is designed to accompany you throughout your day and to capture the spontaneous beauty of everyday life. So that kind of casual photographer type person. The BF balances performance with simplicity and returns the focus to what matters most, your photographs. So again, this is a photography marketed camera, although it does have video features. This is a photographer's camera first and foremost, and it's very boxy, very angular, and I wonder how comfortable that actually is to hold. One of the things that I did with my Lumix S9 that I think is a necessity, it's an essential, is to put a little bit of a bumper grip on there. Small rig makes a nice little cage. I did a whole video about it and why I like it. This is that same type of camera where, yes, the shape of it, the camera itself can fit in your pocket, can go anywhere, but the moment you're attaching these lenses, it's not pocketable anymore. And at the end of the day, when you're shooting with the thing, you're holding it in your hand. So ergonomics do matter. And I think I look at something like this and think that's going to be either uncomfortable to hold or it's going to easily slip away because I have nothing to grip on. Again, my opinion could change if I actually get my hands on one of these one day. But at first glance, I would say doesn't look like it fit my hand too well. Radical simplicity is what they say. The Sigma BF's most important feature is its simplicity. So this is really for that. The designer in the photographer, the photographer who cares about the aesthetics of the camera and how it looks maybe on their shelf or just in their hand. Like, does that matter? I think at a certain extent it kind of does. We want cameras that look cool, but we also want them to be functional and useful. So we'll see how this plays out. Sigma says, we wanted to create the easiest camera to use, inspired by the humble beginnings of the camera obscura. While the lens remains the soul of photography, the camera still profoundly shapes the images you take directly, indirectly, even subconsciously. Without compromising on features or performance, the BF's design cuts out everything that distracts from your interaction with the image. From its aluminum unibody to its simplified controls and streamlined menu, the BF embodies a pure photographic experience free of frustration. We'll see. Can they live up to that promise? Is it actually that useful to hold this thing? I don't know. We have some old, we got the before and after comparison of the old tech versus the new tech. Here we go. I mean, it is very Apple-esque in the design, right? The aluminum, the silver, and the black, very sleek, very simplistic. We do have silver and we have the black option, or the black, but it switched me to the back, which was a little confusing. Silver, black. Let's go through these real quick. Oh yeah, there we go. The black aluminum. It looks nice, but at a certain point, I don't care how small it gets when inevitably I'm always putting a lens on it to a certain degree, and it's going to make it a little bigger. It's not going to go in anyone's pocket. So here we go. Some more looks at, we got the shutter button up top. It does have a microphone built in, status monitor, which is kind of cool. In the video, they show that status monitor is responsive to what you're changing. So you're changing your ISO and it'll show, you change your shutter, it'll show on that status monitor. We've got a thumb grip on the back. So maybe that does help with the ergonomics holding it. a dial center and the kind of control. We got an option button, a power button, and a playback button all on the right side, which is part of the video they put out saying this kind of a single hand usability. You can do it all from your right hand, which is kind of nice. Sorry, you left-handers out there, maybe they'll make a variant for you, but I kind of doubt it. We got seamless interaction. The Sigma BF represents a new, more intuitive way to use a camera. It is streamlined to make the act of photography as effortless as possible. You know how much I love being effortless, but I wonder, is that actually possible with this type of design? I don't know. Maybe they're at odds at a certain point. If you really think about it, sometimes you want a dedicated button for the one function. I don't want 100 buttons, but 10 isn't bad. We have replaced the shooting mode dial itself, a holdover from the days of film photography, with direct access to the 5 elements that decide the photograph: shutter speed, aperture, ISO, EV compensation, and color mode are all immediately available at the touch of a finger. The new status monitor displays the currently active setting, so the screen provides an unobstructed view of the subject. That's their other ethos with this camera. Get the info off the display, focus on the photo in the LCD, and then you've got your settings over here on that little status icon up top, that little black menu bar. The BF's high-resolution screen provides a distraction-free view of all necessary information and nothing more. With one simple setting, it shows only the live view image with the 5 key elements: shutter speed, aperture, ISO, EV compensation, and color mode displayed when you are ready to press the shutter button. All other options and settings are accessed via just 3 simple menu screens. They're really going for this ultimate simplicity, which maybe there's something to that. The original iPhone was built around this ultimate simplicity. We're going to give you a touch screen and one button, and that's it. Granted, I think there were some buttons on the side for volume and lock, but this one button, or super simple, can lead to some really interesting user interface experiences. At a glance, the innovative status monitor displays the active setting, highlighting exactly what you need to know without distraction. So here we go. When you're changing your shutter, which is what we're looking at, changing your aperture, changing your ISO, it reflects on that little display there, which is kind of a clever, unique way to show that information being off of the LCD itself. I don't know if it's better, but it is interesting and unique. Tactile control. With 3 buttons and a dial pad, the BF's redesigned user interface makes adjustments instant and intuitive, leaving your attention on the scene and not the settings. As the first mirrorless camera as of February 2025 by Sigma, the BF features pressure-sensitive haptic buttons, resulting in minimal physical wear while still offering the precise and tactile sensation of conventional mechanical buttons. So we got some haptic feedback. They're doing some ultimate technology here, really trying to bring things into the future, I suppose. But sometimes, you just, what's wrong with a button? I don't know. Sometimes there's the solution to the problem that we never had. I don't think anyone was complaining about the buttons necessarily, maybe how buttons feel. Maybe they're a little squishy or whatever, but we'll see if the haptics are an actual solution. Maybe it's just not even a problem that we're solving at that point. The BF is designed to last. It is the first camera in history to feature a true unibody, with each camera carved from a single solid block of aluminum. Ingot over the course of 7 hours. The weight of its seamless all-metal body harmonizes perfectly with any attached lens, while its shape, button placement, and precision-cut front texture guarantee secure handling. You can see just in the language they're using, this is really all about the aesthetics. So you're paying a premium for the super sexy design, I guess, kind of, again, that Apple mindset. We're going to really unibody, harmonious. The language they use, I think, is very intentional and speaks to maybe who they think this is for. Deceptively powerful. Simplicity does not mean limitation. Sometimes it might. The Sigma BF is packed with advanced technology to expand your creative possibilities. It is powerful full-frame sensor, delivers exceptional image quality, while the fast, reliable hybrid autofocus system keeps subjects in focus. You'll notice they're not talking a lot about specs. This isn't like the speed of it, the resolution, the dynamic range. We're not getting numbers. We're just getting more adjectives and words that make you feel a certain way. So this is not a specs-based camera. It's not a powerhouse, a flagship, like this is the best and does the most. We're getting more of a vibe, more of an atmosphere around the camera we're using. The Sigma BF is launching with 9 lenses in matching colors. Matching colors, aesthetics, you get it. Color modes, we've got standard, rich, calm, powder blue, warm gold. So they've got some different color profiles here. 709 look, monochrome. I think they do have L log, I believe is the Sigma log profile, which isn't listed there, but maybe we get to that. Up to 6K video. So, hey, that's like the first number I think we got. 6K video, aside from it takes them 7 hours to make the unibody, but 6K video. Some stories are best told in moving images with 6K recording, powerful HVEC encoding, and L log. There it is. L log support and up to 120 frames per second. The Sigma BF provides filmmakers with a nimble, versatile camera to capture and refine their vision. Let's see what else we got. It's a full frame sensor. So we've got 35 millimeter full frame sensor, means stunning details, exceptional image quality. Yes, wide dynamic range and brilliant low light performance. But again, no numbers, just saying these are all good things. The large sensor size also translates to a shallower depth of field to separate subject and background. Yes, we know how that works. Internal storage. The SD card slot is replaced by 230 gigabytes of internal memory capable of storing more than 14,000 JPEG files, 4,300 uncompressed raw images, or 2.5 hours of video at the highest quality setting, with the USB-C port offering fast charging and data transfer speed. So no SD card. You'll never forget it. You'll never be in a situation your camera might be full and you might not be able to replace it or format it if you haven't copied the footage over or the photos over. But hey, it's built right in. You can't forget the SD card, which is maybe good, maybe bad, depending on who you're asking. Let's see, captured with the BF. The cameras we make are only part of the photographic story. What really counts are the wonderful images that photographers create with them. We invited a few different people. There's a Vander somebody in there, that's nice, to produce new work with the Sigma BF. Each artist captures the subtleties of everyday moments with their unique perspective and visual language. We hope you enjoy their photos as much as we did. So here we have some photos here. Okay, like very artsy. Let's see, day-to-day life. We've got a football player. Nice. Okay, that's the end of the page. So let's wrap this up with some final thoughts on this new camera from Sigma. Ultimately, best thing about it, it's another L-mount camera. This is the chicken or egg scenario that we're constantly talking about. Why aren't there enough L-mount lenses? Sigma's making plenty of L-mount lenses, but there's still not enough. Panasonic needs to make more. Obviously, Leica. We need more L-mount lenses, but we don't get the lenses unless there's enough bodies, camera bodies out there in the world with the L-mount that need those lenses. So the L-mount ecosystem needs to kind of grow hand in hand. We need camera bodies and we need more lenses. And chicken or egg, which ones are we going to get first? No matter what, this Sigma BF, as they call it, which again, I don't really know what the BF is all about. Maybe we'll find out eventually. Maybe someone already knows. Maybe it's somewhere in the press release that I didn't get to. Why it's BF? Why was it FP? I don't really know. But these small, tiny box cameras, I say a box. It is literally a box. It's not the box camera that you'd want for like cinema, but kind of boxy. More L-mount cameras is a good thing, even if it's not one that I personally would buy or gets me excited. This is sort of that, I don't know, the way I read this camera, it's that person who's shooting with their smartphone and they want to buy a camera. And so they get the fancy, sexy, super uber designed one because all they need is something a little bit better than their smartphone. For a professional photographer who's getting paid to do work, maybe this could be your gimmick. Maybe this could be your shtick. Like, oh, you shoot with this Sigma BF because it gives you something special, some unique aesthetic. But probably not. More realistically, you're going to choose a camera with more functionality. Again, kind of like trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. I don't think I've ever had a Canon, a Nikon, a Sony, a Lumix, any of these cameras in my hand and been, oh, this is too many buttons. Maybe I don't like where the buttons are, but I certainly haven't ever wanted them to be removed. And for a camera that I do own that has less buttons, like the Lumix S9, I'm constantly slowed down a little bit compared to the S5 Mark II. Very, very much apples to apples in that scenario. The S5 Mark II Lumix camera has more buttons in places that I need to use them for photos. which is what we're talking about, photography, versus the S9. Yes, it's streamlined. Yes, it's simpler, but sometimes that makes things harder to access. The only saving grace here for Sigma could be this new user interface, the menu system that they've redesigned, if that actually complements the simplicity of those buttons. So I'm not going to be upset that there's another L-mount camera out there, because I think that's overall good. I think it's a net benefit. However, I do think it's a very specific, smaller use, target customer that would be interested in this type of camera, because it's not something I could recommend to any professional of, oh yeah, get this because it's the best. It's not that. Oh, get this because it's the easiest to use and it's the most comfortable. I can't quite say that. You would get this because it looks cool, because it has a nice vibe to it, I guess, but I don't think it's going to win any awards in terms of the quality of that final output, because it doesn't seem to have anything unique there. What's unique about it is the construction, is the design. And we'll see if that catches on. I kind of am skeptical. I don't think this is what a lot of us are looking for, asking for, but maybe I'll be proven wrong, and rightfully so. That's totally fair. There's plenty of times, there's room to be right and there's room to be wrong. All I can give you is my first impressions and my gut reaction to something like this. When I see this and I see that this is $2,000, I'm not ready to pre-order. I'm not excited to go sign up and be first in line for something like this, because it's not for me. And maybe that's okay. Maybe it's for you. Fair enough. Go get one. But I think if you're just comparing specs, you can get the same stuff at a cheaper price. And I don't know that necessarily their goal of being super simple will actually achieve the effortless production or the effortless experience that they're going for. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But also maybe it's a stepping stone for someone else to build off of, taking a look at some of the cool stuff they're doing with these menus and the interface and saying, oh, aha, we can implement something similar on our camera without sacrificing as much as Sigma has sacrificed here. Regardless, Sigma makes great lenses. I love their lenses. I have plenty of Sigma lenses. I'm just a little underwhelmed by their camera side of the equation and what they're looking to get at there. It's just not for me, which is fine. Not every company has to cater to me and my needs. But if it was up to me, I would just pick something different just for my use case, for what I need. This BF camera is cool. I like that it exists. I'll never say, I don't want less options. I always want more options. But also, there's some that hit the mark for me and others that just don't. And this one, at first glance, first impression, gut reaction is, not for me, but cool if it's for you. More power to you. For me, I'm certainly happy with the Lumix S9, and I don't think this offers anything, different enough or outstanding enough or wow factor enough to get me to go, oh yeah, I'm going to pay an extra $1,000 for that version of a very similar camera. But we'll see.